Welcome from San Diego, California. We are reaching you in English, Spanish, and Portuguese live through a unique and complex international telecommunications network via satellite, microwave, and cable. This program brings together distinguished organizations representing education, health, business, and government in more than a dozen countries in the Americas and Europe. During this video conference, we will examine the new network organization, its enabling technologies, modalities, and development strategies. This is the sixth video conference of the year 2002 series entitled Excellence with a Global Flair. I'm Professor Peter Anderson of the School of Communication here at San Diego State University, and I'll serve as your moderator for this program. Modern technology has transformed today's organization in innumerable ways. At one time, people who worked together in an organization occupied the same physical space. Today, with telephony, mobile telephones, fax machines, teleconferences, email, and the internet, organizations can transform from physical entities to virtual entities. Today, workers can often work at a distance from each other, potentially increasing their productivity and quality of service while decreasing the need for commuting, travel, and the cost of building larger physical facilities. This new networked organization has the potential to make government, health, education, and business more accessible, cost-effective, and efficient throughout the world. But how does this work? With your organizational teams scattered across the country and the world, how do people meet and collaborate? Are both social capital and the business relationship lost in an electronic organization? Do organizations that are higher tech require higher touch? How do you supervise and evaluate electronic employees? Can virtual organizations unclog our highways and reduce air pollution as morning and afternoon commutes become less necessary? To answer these and other questions, we are most fortunate to have with us two experts on the new networked organization. As president of Global Professional Corporation in Encinitas, California, Dr. Golden has been a management trainer and consultant for 16 years. He is one of the principals of the International Technology and Training Corporation, formed to provide training and career development to Latin America, the Middle East, and India. Dr. Golden specializes in virtual teamwork, change leadership, team building, and organizational communication. He's also a visiting professor of management at Webster University in St. Louis and has published extensively. His prior academic appointments include serving as Assistant Dean at San Diego State University and as Assistant Professor at the University of Arkansas. Dr. Golden holds both a master's degree of social work and a doctorate in education from the University of Arkansas. Dr. Lawrence Rhyne is Associate Professor of Management here at San Diego State University and teaches strategic management of technology and innovation, international strategic management, and international business strategy and integration in the undergraduate, graduate, and executive MBA programs. Dr. Rhyne's research interests center on effective strategies for companies in high technology and emerging industries in a global context. He is a member of the Academy of Management, the Strategic Management Society, and the Academy of International Business. Prior to joining the faculty at SDSU, Professor Rhyne taught at the J.L. Kellogg School of Management at Northwestern University and the Stewart School of Business Administration at the Illinois Institute of Technology. In addition, he has significant corporate experience, most recently as manager of corporate planning for the Skill Corporation in Chicago. Dr. Rhyne has numerous articles in a variety of well-known journals in his field. His most recent publication is New Technology Market Entry Strategies, Lessons Learned, in the 2001 Handbook of Business Strategy. He holds an MBA in Finance from the University of Missouri and received his Ph.D. in Strategic Management from Northwestern University. Welcome, Dr. Rhyne. Gentlemen, let's begin with this question. In a virtual networked organization, how do you best develop and preserve business and personal relationships?
Peter, Larry, if I may. I think one of the initial and actually ongoing tasks that's most important is establishing and maintaining trust. Relationship building is much more difficult online, electronically, than in face-to-face situations. So I think the participants all have to make a concerted, purposeful effort to maintain in relationship building.
Good. I would hardly concur with that. But in addition, you must be sure to deliver value to your partners in a relationship to maintain that trust on an ongoing basis.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for those excellent insights. Now we begin with Module 1.
Thank you. Two overarching and accelerating trends have impacted the business and educational environment in the last decade. These trends are globalization and the rapid advancement of information technology, most notably the Internet. As executives built global organizations, they encountered two challenges. Should the organization structure be decentralized or centralized? How could the company leverage global scale resources while remaining locally responsive? Research professors and authors Christopher Bartlett and Sumatra Ghoshal have proposed what they have labeled the transnational solution. Companies have discovered that they do not need to always be centralized or always decentralized. For some decisions, it is appropriate that they be made at headquarters, and for other decisions, it is appropriate that they be made locally. As an example, the research for a new product may be conducted at a central laboratory, while a choice of the color of the packaging, flavors, and scents may be decided locally. The new information technologies greatly facilitate this type of communication. These companies also discovered that bringing employees together for face-to-face communication was an important first step. Let us take a few moments to review the development of network organizations. Authors Selly, Elam, Kerr, Shen have summarized this history. Japanese firms pioneered the development of just-in-time manufacturing systems in the early 1980s. Companies became more cost-efficient by reducing the barriers between themselves and their suppliers. The success of just-in-time systems was assisted by the development of electronic data interchange systems. These systems allowed companies to share data over value-added networks. Electronic data interchange systems reduced the transaction costs of business-to-business communication by replacing routine tasks that had involved expensive human interactions. As their experience with these networks grew, firms began to cooperate to enhance the efficiency of the overall system rather than just their individual segment. The Japanese culture and Keiretsu economic structure supported these practices. U.S. firms were resistant to adoption of just-in-time manufacturing practices, but when faced with increased competition on price and quality, By the early 1990s, they had instituted these systems. While very successful electronic data interchange networks were expensive and still essentially linear, involving only one company to one company communication, the introduction of the Internet changed the nature of information exchange. First, the Internet offered a low-cost method of exchanging information with an unlimited audience by means of a friendly user interface. Secondly, the Internet allowed customers to quickly conduct commerce. Dell Computer's initial value proposition revolved around passing savings on to consumers by cutting retailers out of the buying chain. Their direct model took the latest product technology available, applied it to the extent required to best meet customers' needs, and then delivered it to the customer as quickly and efficiently as possible. Later, Dell was able to leverage its credibility in the mail-order PC business to evolve the direct model to encompass made-to-order PCs, that is, mass customization. Using both the early and the more recent versions of their model, Dell was generally able to deliver the latest technology to its customers much faster than other PC manufacturers whose products traveled through the standard retail channels. Numerous other companies have tried to duplicate Dell's business model with varying degrees of success. These companies discovered that the front-end one-to-one customer intimacy required the support of a well-developed back-end logistics networks. All industries do not provide the same opportunity to achieve this level of support. Internet sellers soon discovered that the closeness of customers was a double-edged sword. While it allowed companies to gain significant insights into customer preferences and in demand, manufacturers soon realized that consumers have high expectations when they purchase goods. Specifically, years of retail purchasing had trained consumers to demand short delivery lead times. In order to meet these expectations, manufacturers would have to improve their supply chains. Demand networks are the latest in a line of enabling technologies that have assisted changes to supply chain management. Whereas the Internet direct selling models and early business-to-consumer agencies failed to incorporate the values of networks into their fulfillment processes, the new demand networks laid a foundation for exciting innovations in the way organizations view their delivery capabilities. Let me describe the anatomy of these existing networks and present the core aspects of their value propositions. At the heart of a demand network is the market hub. The market hub acts as the central nervous system to the markets they serve. The hub connects buyers and suppliers and hosts a variety of value-added transactions, including auctioning, reverse auctioning, and others. Hubs can serve both vertical and horizontal markets. Examples of vertical market hubs and the industry they serve include Chemdex in life sciences and E-Steel in the steel industry. Examples of horizontal market hubs and the markets they serve include Ariba Network, an exchange serving maintenance and repair and operational service parts, and Honeywell's MyPlant.com, an exchange providing machinery, equipment, and manufacturing solutions for a variety of industries. The initial versions of demand fulfillment networks were essentially e-procurement solutions. To that end, the target customers of these systems is the buyer. The price of admission into the network for buyers is typically an initial software licensing fee for back-office software and an ongoing transaction fee assessed according to the total volume procured over the network. As competition increases in the various markets, the initial software licensing fees are likely to vanish. The sellers are the bait that lures the buyers. With an extensive supplier base to source from, more buyers will join the network. Therefore, business-to-business solution providers have tailored the supplier interface to be as flexible as possible. Sellers are frequently charged a small fee for participation in the network and/or transaction fees. In addition to market makers, buyer and sellers, there are two other classes of participants involved in the network: logistics providers and logistics hubs. The logistic providers move freight between participants in the network and include traditional transportation providers such as U.S. Freightways. Just as firms like Oracle and Ariba link buyers and sellers of goods, logistic hubs link freight carriers and shippers with companies requiring the movement of goods. The new business-to-business market hubs offer network participants procurement cost savings through reduced search costs. This applies to both buyers and sellers, as the hubs act as a one-stop shop for thousands of products. Second, the new hubs provide buyers and sellers with an extended reach to potential trading partners. This is particularly attractive to smaller players or new entrants who do not have the visibility and exposure enjoyed by their larger incumbent competitors. Third, many networks offer auctioning or reverse auctioning functions, which provide participants with instant access to trades they would have otherwise been excluded from. Logistics hubs offer many similar benefits. For an example, an offering by an auctioning function, logistic providers supply participants with an efficient pricing mechanism. Logistic hubs offer companies lower transportation unit costs by simplifying the search process. In addition, as transportation is largely a commodity service, logistic hubs are able to gain greater efficiency of scale by aggregating supply and demand. These efficiencies result in a more optimized global distribution plan, since they have visibility to multiple shipping companies, as well as many loads that must be transported. These cost savings, in turn, may be returned to customers in the form of lower prices. Demand and fulfillment networks represent a significant step forward in the advancement of fulfillment processes for several reasons. First, they reintroduce the notion that the economy functions as a network of interdependent agents rather than as a set of independent linear chains. The Internet elevates a company's ability to interact efficiently and thereby extract the greatest value from the network. Moreover, the value of the network expands by including participants rather than by excluding them, as tends to be the result of most supply chains. Second, the introduction of demand and fulfillment networks represents a drop in the theoretical minimum cost function. By rapidly and efficiently disseminating information, these networks equip participants to make more informed and better decisions. Nevertheless, demand networks still have significant shortcomings. The first of these is that demand networks generally achieve only local optimization, not system-wide optimization. Most demand networks address only a particular segment of a business, not the overall system. Sun Microelectronics is an exception. Sun operates in a fabrication-less environment. Sun not only contracts with component suppliers and third-party logistics firms, but also with manufacturers who actually assemble their products. Sun's basic business model is to oversee and coordinate the business processes of the members of their demand network. Sun essentially acts as an air traffic controller, coordinating all the activity in their trading networks. Demand networks allow for information sharing, but not common decision making. Without shared planning and decision making across the network, conflicting decisions may be made in different parts of the system, driving up waste and costs. Hubs have difficulty with customized products. If products can be tightly specified, a reverse auction process may be feasible. However, in the early stages of new product innovation, this is not likely to be possible. Demand networks have problems with supplier qualification. In the early stages of development, hubs work to achieve critical mass by attracting as many suppliers as possible. Since these early stages typically dealt with standardized products, this was not a problem. As hubs have moved to more complex products, many are directing increased effort to qualifying suppliers. Demand networks can damage relationships between companies and their suppliers. In recent years, companies have more and more viewed their suppliers as partners. Japanese companies have been particularly successful with this practice. With the hub's emphasis on obtaining the lowest possible price, manufacturers utilizing them may weaken the level of cooperation from their suppliers. Suppliers that attempt to differentiate their products on a basis other than price may find that their products are commoditized when they are listed in an electronic catalog. Many have predicted that the internet and e-commerce will lead to a single global market, dispersion of activities, and standardization of products. However, recent research appears to indicate that this is only part of the story. While some activities will be dispersed, others will remain clustered. Globalman, Royal, and Standard concluded that the new information and communication technologies may lead to more globalization and standardization at some early stages of the supply chain and to more heterogeneity closer to the final consumer. Zaire and Manharkan have found that the introduction of a trading network in the financial services industry led to increased participation from peripheral countries, but did not reduce the importance of locational clusters. Lemur and Stropel stated that the communication of complex, uncodifiable information will still require face-to-face interactions. They suggested that this will lead to clustering of intellectual and innovative activities. However, they concluded that the new information and communication technologies will lead to a dispersion of routine production and routinized intellectual labor. Local infrastructure, attitudes, and values remain important to this successful Internet strategies. Lynch and Beck found that advanced Internet users from 20 countries show differences in beliefs, attitudes, perceptions, and Internet buying behavior depending on user experiences and home country or region. They concluded that regional Internet strategies will be necessary. Coburn has noted that the Internet is destructive of the distinction between domestic and international. Electronic commerce penetrates deeply into domestic structures. That brings differences in belief systems and cultural norms to the fore. Privacy is an excellent example here, and can result in deep-seated intersocietal conflict. While these differences cannot be papered over, it is far from clear how they can be resolved and equitably and efficiently. While the new network organization still have many shortcomings, their full potential has not yet been realized. As managers learn more about the requirements for success, practices to reach that potential will add benefits for consumers worldwide. This is the right time for competitive organizations around the world to start practicing and creating with this increasingly networked environment of suppliers, producers, and consumers.
Let's begin with our first question and answer session. We will try to answer as many questions as possible. Therefore, we ask that only one question be asked per phone call, and that these questions be as brief as possible. You may call the studio directly at the phone number or fax, which appears on your screen. We remind you to make your phone calls at a distance from the monitor to avoid feedback. And I believe we have our first caller from the Federación Nacional de Comerciantes in Medellín, Colombia. Come in, please.
Muchas gracias. Buenos días.
Buenos días.
Buenos
En
días.
las organizaciones en red, muchos empleados están
In the
geográficamente y
e-organizations,
jerárquicamente lejos del centro de las cosas. Estos trabajadores periféricos presentan problemas para las organizaciones.
señor, disculpe,
Pueden no saber qué está pasando y es un problema de información. Y puede no importarles y sería un problema de motivación. ¿Cuál es la forma más acertada para enfrentar estos dos obstáculos? Muchas gracias.
many of the employees might, in an e-organization, might be at the center of an organization, or they might be in another country or in another place. There might be certain aspects that these employees might not know, or there might be a lack of motivation. How can we address these problems?
Gentlemen, want to take a stab at that?
I think on the lack of motivation, they may not know. It's important, I guess, to communicate the mission of the organization widely, and that's important in any organization, but particularly in high tech, where there is so much change and fluidity, that they would know what the mission is, and then that their actions, how they can support that mission. I think the lack of motivation might be that people aren't sure what's expected of them or what they're trying to do.
So clear expectations, and obviously this works best in an organization where it's product-based rather than there's a definite outcome rather than simply an hourly worker, for example.
Yes, yes. Often the people will be motivated in this to produce the result or the product or the service rather than just put in the hours.
And they can do it on their own time frame and whatever, huh?
Right.
I might add, too, that
Please.
the leadership of the network or the virtual team is very important in making sure that the people that are throughout the country or outside of the country are getting the information that they need. I think that's the responsibility of the virtual team leader. I think also motivation is something that the virtual team leader has to address directly from the very beginning with the team to make sure they have motivated people.
Thanks very much. We have a call from La Habana, Cuba, from Siena Internet. Come in, please, Havana.
Buenos días a todos. La pregunta es la siguiente. La organización Ed.D es una realidad en la que muchas diversidades de actividades como industria, la salud, la producción, etcétera, estarán involucradas. En este caso, todas se van a descentralizar trabajando en este modo de red. ¿Cómo se comportaría la productividad entonces en este sentido, en su modo de ver? Muchas gracias.
Good morning, and my question has to do, now that all of the e-organizations and the network organizations are going to start using this type of organization, many industries that have to do with health and production, all will be decentralized now. How would you address the problem of productivity in this new network organization?
Gentlemen, who'd like to take that one?
I think on the parts of it will be decentralized, but within the various nodes of this network, you may have a very efficient process of producing the products or the sub-assemblies, so that you will have the concentrations at the outside of the network and at the center of the network.
I think, too, that businesses, many of their larger businesses now are going to decentralized units anyway. Jack Welch, former CEO of General Electric, talked about setting up independent businesses. One of the first things he did was set up among the conglomerate independent businesses. So I think that is not unusual, and it's something we see in traditional businesses as well.
All right, thanks. We have a caller from Mexico, from Universidad de Sonora in Hermosillo. Come in, please, Sonora.
Good morning, and we would like to say hi from the University of Sonora. This is a very important issue. The organizations are now incorporating strategies for investment and administration in these teleworking networks. I would like to also talk about the question that my colleague from FENALCO addressed. I would also like to talk about motivation. I think motivation is very important in this aspect of teleworking in the network. And I believe that the challenge here is more oriented towards motivation. How can managers develop new strategies that have to do with communication? What type of skills, of attitudes must the managers, the leaders of the organizations adopt to really enable this communication that motivates, that stimulates the people that are working at a distance in the network organization? Thank you very much.
Dr. Rhyne, you want to try that motivation? Dr. Golden, okay.
Let me jump in on that one, yeah. I think motivation is critical, and I think when you're selecting people to work at a distance, that has to be one of their criteria. Unfortunately, often we just choose people who have facility with the technology, but they also have to be motivated themselves intrinsically. I think the characteristics that we have to look for and the things that we have to reinforce in training and in the culture of the organization include risk-taking, creativity, people who are willing to have the capacity of working on their own, are self-motivated, have a lot of intrinsic motivation. So it's selection and training. And I think a lot of attention has to be paid to that, more so than in a face-to-face situation.
In reality, in a modern organization, somebody's not standing over you with a club looking